Hey everyone, Barbara Horde here with I Am This Woman, and I am super excited today to introduce our special guest, Jerry Seidl. So, first of all, let me tell you about Jerry. He is an entrepreneur, visionary, leader, and industry expert in the CPG arena. He has over 35 years of selling and management experience in the consumer products and over the counter pharmaceutical industry. He's currently the Senior VP of U Theory, a manufacturer and distributor of health and wellness products. And he is here today to discuss how he supports the women that work on his team and how women empowerment in the workplace. Jerry, thanks so much for being part of the show.
Happy to be here. Was looking
Yeah.
forward to the show today.
Yeah, and I'm so excited because you reached out to me and said I would love to come on the show and talk to you about this. And so I think we have women who watch and we have people who watch and when I think about it, I am this woman is truly about how we support women and what's happening and what's going on in the workplace. So I would love, the fact that you have a team of women. How many women work on your team?
I have seven women just directly reporting to me, and then a lot of ancillary staff in additional roles. But that's my direct sales organization.
Wow. Yeah. So you're talking about seven women working in a team directly reporting to you. I used to work for Jerry, so super honored that he reached out to me. And I know how you showed up for me, and you were always a voice that your door was always open. You always created the space to be able, if I had an idea or a thought or working on huge trade shows, you gave me a lot of freedom to kind of create and do. What is your when you think about it, having a staff of women, and I know because I'm a woman, my goodness, God bless you. But what is it that you want to really talk about today when it comes to women and workforce and women's empowerment and all that, and how you support them?
You asked about how many women work in my sales organization, and the fact that I do have an all women based. It doesn't start out that way by design. And I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I inherited some of this when I began my career here at my current job,
Hmm.
but I've also hired numerous people since I've been here. And I didn't intentionally set out to just, I'm going to fill this position with a woman.
Right.
But what I found at the end of the day, when it came to actually hiring and putting an offer out, was they were the best person for the job. And there's so many reasons behind it. And I think that's really the detail I wanted to get into is what separated them and why were they more qualified from the angle of they're a woman as opposed to a man or a black man or someone of that sort. I mean, they just were the most qualified, but there's so much background in why they were qualified. And it really had to do with the fact that they are a woman and they've had to go through a lot of obstacles, unfortunately, in maybe 2020, but they still have to go through a lot of obstacles. And it's just the way it is in society. And it's unfortunate, but I think we've made, strong inroads. But women have to go a little bit extra mile. And I found that they just, at the end of the day, they've had so many experiences as a result of that. They came to the table with not only the job knowledge, but all of this extra experience just as a result of who they were. Uh,
Right.
and I think that was the difference maker. And so uh, it just was welcoming to have that perspective from them.
And I love that you just said like they have all this experience, and we do. It's interesting. We do have to jump through a lot of hoops because here we are as a woman, and then if you are a mother and a wife, then you're dealing with working, being a mom, being a wife, dealing all those things. And I love that you're saying like they bring all this experience because if you've ever ran an entire household with kids, that's a corporation within itself, you know and I love the fact that you're like they do bring so much experience. I know you work with the industry that you work in, right? And it's geared toward women. Your products are geared toward women, so I look at the fact that women really understand what this is like, the things that they like, what they use, what they do. you know? So I think that that makes a huge difference right there. Um, I guess my thing is that when you are here, you're at a round table and you have all these women around you and you're running a business and everything. How is it that you are geared toward really lifting them up as women coming in and for them to grow, for them to learn, for them to do? How is it that you can support them? And I know it's supporting anybody because I know I work for you, but even in the company I work for you with, majority there was a lot of women that were in that company.
Oh,
you
certainly.
know yeah, so what is it that you how do you create that space, to be able to say, like, I see you?
Well, there's probably two main key points. One is uh, they bring a different perspective to the table. Granted, I am in an industry that I think if you just did the numbers, it's probably more heavily, at least the sales positions. There's more women in those roles than there are men on the health side of it, the natural channel business. Our business is broad scale. We're multi-channel, but the products we sell, high end health and wellness, as an example, I think women are more in tune to those things. They tend to look out more for themselves than men in terms of taking care of themselves and making sure they're treating their bodies, and as they progress and age, that they're getting the nutrients and the supplements they need. And as a result of that, they become somewhat of an expert. Even people who don't work in the industry that are women who take these supplements, these vitamins, they're somewhat expert. So that's part of it. Is I think our industry is just more geared toward women on the health and wellness side.
Yeah, I
Plus,
like
keep
that.
in mind, in families, the women takes on that role of making sure she's providing health and wellness for her family, her husband, her significant other, her kids, her family. So it goes beyond that. So that's one part of it. Um, the other part of it is trying to empower them. One of the things I think you mentioned, and I really put a lot of emphasis on it, is too many times people have a tendency to just talk to their employees, men or women,
Hmm.
as an employee. And for me, I tend to start out conversations with understanding and wanting to know what's on their mind. Because if there's something that is bothering them, if there's something that they're, maybe it's a personal situation, maybe it's job related, but I want to make sure all their needs are being met. Because if that isn't, if you don't dial into that first, they're not going to be as productive, they're not going to be as efficient, they're not going to be as responsive. So I think most importantly, you have to adapt to, uh, first and foremost, understanding their own personal needs and treat them like people and individuals, and how you would want to be treated first. And
Well, and I love that you said that. And I think that's so important is that you do create an environment that it's not just about the business. It's not, what I would love for people to get and understand that when someone is working for you, that they're like honor their time, honor their commitment, honor what they're doing, and that it makes such a difference. I know working for you, like when we've gone to a big trade show, you created such a space for me to kind of like do it, but then you also gave me the tools that I needed. You supported me on those things. And I know that makes a huge difference. So I can understand those women who work for you, what a great environment that you create, you know. But more importantly, you have a lot of women in your household or in your immediate family, right? How many? Because I'm trying to think. I don't know the number of your kids and all that, but and girls, boys, how is that?
well, I had two girls that I raised, and I'm going back to my childhood, it was quite the opposite, Barbara. I grew up in a house, a very large household, in a very small house on a farm with six boys running around and only two sisters. And the sisters were gone because they were on the older end of the family spectrum. So for most of my growing up years, it was nothing but a household of boys. And if you ever want to learn something from a woman, you look no further than your own mother, because the fact that she had to deal with that, and
Right.
she was a wife, uh, you know, the mother of 8 kids, and also worked out in addition to being on the farm. So it all started there, right? The empowerment of women and how you respect and look up to women. It started with my mother. I mean,
I
there's
love that.
no better role model. And, you know, in my own house, as you were referring to, I had a couple of girls I raised, and they were challenging years. If they were here online with me, they wouldn't disagree with those. They were very challenging years. And, we were just talking a few minutes ago about embracing your employees and making sure their needs are met and making sure that you maintain this personal relationship with them and understand what's eating at them, what's bothering them, what they need, and all of these things have to be addressed. But I often fell in my own personal life dealing with the girls I raised, the people I've had relationships with. I don't always apply these same things we're talking about to the people who are closest to me. That's probably one of my failures. I'll readily admit that. Um, I'd love to be able, it's interesting because sometimes I put more into the work, the job, the career
Mm,
than I do into my own surroundings, my own family, my own friends. And
interesting.
I'm not sure if that's a strength or a weakness, but from my personal perspective, it's probably a weakness, because
Hmm.
if I could apply those same kinds of attitudes we just talked about in the workplace and with
Right.
women to my own girls and to people around me in my own personal circle, I think, it would have been a better situation. So, yeah, I've
Yeah.
had some failures in my own personal life as
Haven't
well.
we all? Yeah. But I love that you said, see, to me, it's not the failures. My goodness gracious, that's life. Life
Right.
is going to present with us the failures. But I love that you see that and you look at it, you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? There's some things that I probably could do better or I could do different. And even speaking that out, it could be something that you're going to switch and change and look at and say, wait a minute, how am I reacting to my nieces, my daughters, my cousins, friends, other women and everything, and creating that space
Mhm.
for them.
Right.
So I love the fact that you kind of have thought about that. Um, and I love the fact that you talk that you go back to your mom and how she, instilled something in you. So that's a great, so how you are now, I love that it's a direct reflection of her. What was the biggest thing that she taught you and how are you using that now?
Well, my mom was like a rock, in the family. She really did it all, and whether you realize it, it's funny when you're growing up, you don't always watch every minute what your mom is doing. But when you get older, you start doing things and they become part of your everyday life, whether you can cook or you can do this or you can keep a house up without a woman around, whether you can share in household responsibilities. I picked up on those just from being around my mom for the 18 years before I went on to college.
Right.
So I think these are ingrained in you, and a lot of that is just going to resonate throughout your whole life because of how you were brought up. So having that strong figure in your life, and in
Yeah.
this case, it was my mom. She was more the dominant one. She kept she kept the ship sailing straight. Uh,
Six boys. Yeah.
yeah, and especially with the boys, because she had to be tougher.
Yeah.
She couldn't be pushed around, and she had to keep a firm finger on us at all times. There's no
Yeah.
question. But a lot of those things that are instilled in me are no question a direct result of growing up with a strong mother. um,
Yes.
and I learned from that because she was also a super kind person, good listener, never ever complained, and which is different from me because I'll complain. Right? But I like the attributes I picked up from my
Yeah.
family, and I wish I had every single one of them. But
Yeah.
we are our own person. But no
Yeah.
question, a lot of the success I've had in life And a lot of what I instill in the people, both in friends and family and people who work for me, I really do try to instill the kinds of things that are important to me and that I value and that I was brought up with and I've carried throughout my career. So it's a part of
That's
empowering people. If you
yeah.
can make people feel good, it's amazing what they can do. They can
Yeah.
pretty much do anything.
And it's such an interesting thing because I think a lot of times, and especially with everything that's going on now with COVID-19, and the corporations are having to make some really tough decisions. And I think the one thing about it is the companies that I think do really, really well are the ones that take care of their people. They want to hear about them. They want to know what's going on. And they also give them space. How do you give space for the people on your team to grow? You know?
How do you get, well, I first of all, I'm very proactive. So when I talk to the staff that works for me, I always make sure it may not be every time, every call, every time we're on a team meeting or an individual call, but I do try to make a point of it to make sure they both, one, know that things that are important to them that they're trying to achieve, personal growth, financial growth, situations they want resolved, I want them to know that I'm working on resolving them. I may not always have complete success getting everything, but it's important to know I'm out there fighting for them.
Mm,
Because when you're not around, it's sort of like leaving a room. You know, you have a classroom of kids or employees or whatever the situation. When you leave the room, do they then walk out without you there and continue doing what they were doing when we were in the room? If you can get people to that point, not forgetting about you or your goals or the objectives or everything you just asked them to do, if you can leave a room and know they're going to just go out there and walk in your footsteps, you know, then you know you're doing something right. And so it's really important to understand their needs are being met, or at least you're out there rooting for them and doing everything you can within your power to make sure their needs are met. I think
that's
that's
good.
the single
Yeah.
most important thing.
I think that's it's such a huge kind of thing. And if we were to talk to your employees, what would be the three things that they would say you do super well that you just really like own?
Well, I hope they would say that I multitask pretty well. It's things like,
Now, okay, wait a minute. I don't know too many men who multitask well. I find that they can't juggle three things at once, you know?
well, surprisingly, I typically am working on 4 or 5 things simultaneously
Yeah.
every minute throughout my day. I have multiple computer screens working on multiple things, and I may be on the phone. It's funny you should mention that because the other day I actually was on 2 Zoom conference calls at the same time.
How? How
One
did
of
you
them
even
one of them was interactive and one of them was not. So I was more involved in the interactive one, listening attentively and being part of the meeting. But
right.
simultaneously, I wanted to be in tune to this Zoom program that was being offered. And so I was listening with one ear and being part of my meeting with the other.
Okay, I bow down because that is impressive. Sometimes I'm on a Zoom call and I'm like, "What is going on?" Like you're trying to do, and this is interesting because then now the whole work dynamic has changed. I see you're in the office now, right?
I am in the
And
office today, correct. Mhm.
yeah, how often? When did you guys start to go? Because did you close down, and when did you guys start to go back into the office?
Well, we went through a lot of what the average company went, and we're not just a sales and marketing organization. We are a manufacturer too. So even meeting more challenging circumstances because you want to make sure the company as a whole, and we have over 200 employees in this facility, and we've managed to maintain safety first. And so
Wow.
we had a few people we furloughed for a while. Most people we kept everybody intact. Our manufacturing
Nice.
facility, our shifts. We put safety protocols in place. Of course, I have been commuting, as you know, and I stayed home for the better part of 2 months. Was very productive.
You have a
Some
beautiful home to stay. Your backyard, front yard. You're in Utah, one of my absolute favorite. States in the freak. Oh my gosh, so incredible. Which I think makes it better that you could sit out back and see some mountains.
It does
Um,
make
oh,
yeah.
it's so amazing there. I love it so much. But I noticed, like, I see you in the office, and I love the fact that you guys, like you say, you're manufacturing. So that is so important because you're creating things that are going to go out into the public.
Right.
So doing that and really taking care of your employees. What was the biggest difficulty with all of that? Because you do have a team, you're supporting your team, you want to be there. How was it that you guys managed to do all this and still kept things going and making sure that your employees felt supported as well?
Well, this is wonderful actually because there's always the concern, especially from the highest management, that when people are working out of their homes. Now, I'm in an industry where salespeople, by design, we're used to working primarily out of our homes. I worked for most of my career out of my home exclusively. When I got into the corporate levels, I did start to work more out of a corporate office, but you have to understand that as long as you're in sales, you have to be out in the trenches with your people.
Sure.
So once, when I came here, for example, I spent a significant amount of time getting, adapting to and implementing structure I wanted in place. Once the basics were put in place, I went back to just spending a week or a week and a half here in corporate and the rest of the time in the field because I think it was real important to spend times face to face with my customers, but with my people. And there really wasn't enough of me to go around, but I tried to balance it the best I could. When we had this period with COVID 19, where, like every other company, we had to adapt, we learned so much because the salespeople were used to this environment. We
Right.
became extraordinarily productive. I would beg to differ with anyone that we probably accomplished more in the last 10 weeks than we normally would have in the same 10-week period
I agree.
pre-COVID 19. First of all, we adapted to some new, what probably will become new norms. We're much more comfortable using these kinds of applications, Zoom meetings, and things of that sort.
Right.
We were able to be focused because we didn't have the distractions of the office. That applied more to me where I was in corporate. People are pulling me from left to right,
Right.
but I was much, much more productive at home. It's funny because now that we're getting back into some pattern of normalcy with all of the safety
Right.
mechanisms still in place, I was chatting with our HR person yesterday about, do I need to be here or don't I? And uh, because I really don't need to, no one's requiring that I need to be here, but I want to be here.
Isn't it
I
nice to
want
go
to
into an
be here.
office?
Yes. And I've been working for 36 years and most of it's been in my home office. And I loved all the companies because they were all very entrepreneurial. Most of them were startups. You were part of a machine that was going to grow into something big and did in almost every case. I
Right.
came into this company that was already running at a very high level. It was a growth machine, it was privately held, it was entrepreneurial, and I just wanted to bring my experiences to take it to another level, at least in the sales side of things. And I didn't have a lot of that negativity to deal with. I've been part, like I said, I really enjoy the company. I enjoy everything about it, the people who also empower their employees, who also look out for their employees, are very caring individuals. Um, but it's nice feeling to come to work. But I wanted to be here because the people in the staff internally that work with me, and I hate to use the term work for me.
Or they work
I
with you.
prefer to use the term work with me because it's a
Love
team.
that.
It's
Yeah.
a when I'm not here, at least sometimes, uh, it's there's not that there's missteps or things not getting done, but it's just part of the whole team concept and being present. And
Yes.
if nothing else, for them to see that I'm just here.
Right.
We've also had interactions and we've had lunches, whether it's for someone coming or going. It's just part of the whole chemistry of
Yes.
needing to be together.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to explain to our HR person yesterday, that I'm going to balance my schedule. I'm going to spend some time in the home office and I'm going to spend some time here. But
Mhm.
I feel I need to be here if for no other reason than to be a presence and to take on that role of looking up the leaders are here. It's important. It's really
Right.
important.
I
So
agree.
that's
I totally agree with you. And I think I love the fact that your company is a company that says like is your company is based in California, you have a home in Utah. And so they know that you a lot of times my son works for a company. He works from home in Florida. His company is based in San Antonio, Texas. And so they find the best people to bring in, and not necessarily does it have to be the company in your backyard. So I think if COVID-19 has taught us nothing, is that there is an opportunity here to notice that people can work from home. And I know Danielle says, so true, I'm much more productive at home. But she also says, but I do miss my coworkers, right? Which I think is so true because I know when I got to go back into the office, I was like, oh, okay, I got to put on clothes and I got to get in the car and drive. And so that made such a difference. But I love the fact that your company is creating that space to be able to work from either home, do that. But then you're also showing such a united front as a leadership team to let people know that, you know what, we see you, we know you, we hear you, and we're here for you.
right.
And I think that that's such a testament to you and who you are also.
Well, and Barbara, that makes it challenging for the field people. Most of the staff is in the field. I have four individuals out in the field, regional managers and a trainer, and these women are in the field. And when I'm here in the office, they don't have the liberty and the luxury of just being able to open my door and tug at my shirt and say, "I need to chat with you about this." We try to interact as much as possible.
Sure.
You know, there is never enough time devoted to those individuals. I will tell you that. Uh,
Hmm.
we I do two things that I try to hold to the best of my ability week long. One is I always have a team call every week, at least one team call where, if nothing else, in the busiest of worlds, we
Yeah.
are chatting together as a group. And I like to go around at the end of the call, if we're not running out of time, and just say, do you have anything to share? I mean, you can share what you did on the weekend if you want. I just
Right.
want to hear, do you have anything you want to share? I'm starting to implement that back here in the office now. Starting next Monday, we're
Nice.
getting back to a team Monday morning meeting or Monday afternoon meeting. Unfortunately, we can't all be together in the same room.
Sure.
There's too many of us here to keep the separation, but we'll probably be looking at each other, but all be on Zoom calls. I had that
All
the
on
other
Zoom
day,
calls,
right?
and you'll look out your office window. You'll be like, "Hey, how are you?" That's
Well,
so awesome. I love
I,
that.
I think the point you were making just a few minutes ago, you asked me, if you were to ask the people in the field or any of my staff, what are the three things? And I mentioned, the multitasking. That's
Sure.
kind of the thing I try to do. Hopefully, I do halfway well.
Right.
Try is the key word. Um, I think hopefully they agree with me. I try to be a really good listener. To the point I made earlier, I can't always accomplish everything I'd like. I take it personally when I can't get them things they want and need. It really eats at me because
Mm,
I really do love that personal relationship. I love the people that work for me. I really
mm,
do. And
yeah.
if I can't accomplish everything they want, I feel disappointed. And
Mm,
so the thing is, even when they're not hearing about it, they
right.
count on the fact that I'm still fighting for it in the
Nice.
background, in the trenches. That's the other thing. Listen to their needs and be there for them. I don't think that they're always looking for me to accomplish everything, but they want to know they have an ear and that's just not being pushed away.
That
So,
is so important. Oh my, I'm glad you said that. I want to take a moment on there because I think a lot of times we don't expect you to move the world. We just want to know that you hear us and you're able to do that. And that's the one thing I noticed that you've always created that with me from the time we worked together, even to the time that we've stayed connected. You've always been that space of, you know what, I might not be able to do it, but no, in the background, I'm working, I'm figuring it out, whatever, and I see you. And that being seen is huge. So, you know,
being
kudos to
seen and
that.
being heard.
Yeah,
You know, we've both worked for large enough organizations where there were dozens of people surrounding us, all in their different roles, and it's a shame when you have to walk through the aisles of an office and And I did that when we worked together. And sometimes you don't know what these people are thinking. It's a shame.
Yeah.
And it was one of my strengths where you and I worked together was also one of my weaknesses. Because there were so many people, I quickly learned within 24 hours, most of the individuals were never being listened to.
Yeah.
And I made it a point to try to reach out to people to the furthest extents of the office from where my office was. I would walk down to their desk and just chat with them.
Right.
Just let them know that I, yes, they're not only being acknowledged, that I appreciate what they're doing. Even if they didn't directly report to me,
Right.
they were part of the cogs in the wheel, right?
Mm,
Without them, we couldn't function fully. And I don't think everyone appreciates that in most companies. Certainly, it's pretty commonplace that upper managements in most companies don't.
right.
It's
I
another
agree.
one of the things I like about working for this company as an example because it's more family based, it's family oriented, it has great values, they have a great moral compass, and they understand that. At times, maybe people may get the impression that they're not listening or they're not hearing, but that's the furthest from the case because they're in a very difficult situation. They're the owners, the founders, they're running the organization. They have so much going on that we
Right.
probably can't even fathom the things they're
Mm,
dealing with.
yeah.
But they do care. And if you can be part of an organization where you have the ear of at least the person you report to, and hopefully people beyond that, or at least get that person to be a carrier of your message of what's important to you, there's just not enough of that team spirit, that working together as a group. It's a shame.
It
Uh,
really is. It's a big thing. I know when I worked for the company we both work for, I was really big on creating that team spirit, the Fridays or the Thanksgiving dinners or whatever like that, because I think that it's those little moments that make such a difference. And a lot of times I think companies like I hope that they're realizing how valuable employees are. Like this is a person also, but they're bringing their skills and their knowledge and honestly their passion to help your company succeed. And I love it to say our company. As I'm building I Am This Woman, my team, like it's our company, it's what we're creating and what we're doing. And I am never, I, Sammy, Taylor, and Yamit make me so much of a better visionary. And I listen to them because I am not an expert in everything I do. So having them on board makes it, it's like night and day. And so once as I Am This Woman grows, that's what I will continue to hold steadfast to is our values, what we believe in, and bringing in a team that really creates that space, you know. And that's something I've learned from having really amazing, bosses and mentors and everything like that. And so that's what I hope some things. That's one of the reasons I, when you reached out to me, I wanted you on the show because I know how you showed up for me and what difference it made for me working with you. So
yeah, one of the points I think that people overlook is, and you probably can attest to this, is I feel you sometimes can get more out of people when you're not pressing work related stuff and you get to what is the source of whatever is on their mind. Sometimes if you talk about non-business you get more accomplished,
mhm,
and this can relate to dealing with my corporate buyers and things in our
right.
industry. We're dealing with employees whether they're men or women, but
Mhm.
you just sometimes talk to people and maybe not even about business. It's amazing the impact it has on business indirectly.
Right.
You don't always have to go to the source. You don't always have to go. Sometimes you don't even have to talk shop to get a
Yeah.
lot accomplished.
It's so true. I think that's such a great way to say it. So I always ask my guests questions because I like to get in their heads and to see who they are. So what is your vision? Like your vision for the world, for yourself, for family, whatever it is. What is if you were to say this is my vision for who I am and what I'm up to? What is your vision?
Well, it sounds kind of cliche, but I I think some of my faults lead to what I see as part of my vision. Because I mentioned very early in the show that a lot of the strengths I have in corporate and in working in the working world, I don't carry through in my personal life as strong.
Hmm.
Some of my strengths are also the same weaknesses I have in my personal life. It's one of my faults, and I wish, I could, and I need to work more at that. If I put as much time and energy into my personal life as I did into my work life, but my work life is part of who I am.
It
It's
is.
me. It's putting making a change on the company I work for, or whatever it is I'm doing. But I do know I need to improve on that. So when I look at my vision, I just want to know that I made a difference. When I
Mhm.
leave this earth, I want to know that I made a difference. That's
I don't
it.
think that's cliche at all, and I love that. I think it's such a simplistic thing is that I want to know I made a difference, and that's the thing. Sometimes you can make a difference with a whole world, or you can make a difference with someone who's right in front of you. So I love that statement. What keeps you going?
Well, I'm high energy to begin with.
You're
I
kidding.
will I will tell it takes a little more of these now to get that high energy ramped up in the morning. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, but for my age, I definitely still have a lot of energy, and I had a lot more. But I think just the energy is helpful. It's part of my personality. But
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about anything I do. If I don't have a passion for something, I'll probably fail at it. So I don't usually embrace everything that I try fully. If I really love what I'm doing, whether it's playing golf or working and making a difference in my work life, it's you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And the most important thing about that is you don't need to change in any way, because when you go out in the world, when you're dealing with people, they can see it. They know the people who are passionate. you know
Yeah.
the guy's not sitting behind the other side of the desk because it's his job, or is he really into what he's doing?
Hmm.
Feel it. You can feel the energy from somebody who's passionate. Clearly you're passionate about what you're doing now.
Yes.
The same passion you had for the role you played in the companies that we work together in. And
Hmm.
this is the worst thing people can do to people who work for them or with them,
Right.
is if they can't identify that person's strengths and then let them run.
Right.
Don't stagnate them. Don't stop them from doing what they do best.
Right.
Maybe they're doing it differently, or it's not the typical protocol that we're used to seeing, but that's what makes it great. We
Right.
have to learn to let the people you hire do what you hire them to do
Mhm.
without always looking over their shoulder.
Amen. It's so true. I'm so much better when you're like
Oh,
I know one of our you got one of our biggest booths ever, and literally it was go for it, and it's like yes, and so I think that that's so important, and trusting in that. um One of the biggest things that happened back in January is when Kobe Bryant passed away. I think that that was something so major for everyone, and the biggest thing for me is not that I followed him in basketball, but I afterwards when he died and they said his last 3 years, he really created this legacy. He created something, and he said his first love was basketball, and then his next love became that Mamba mentality to help his daughter and young women who are playing basketball. If you are going to have a legacy, if you're creating a legacy, what is your legacy?
yeah, he did leave a legacy. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't know he was doing those things until
Not
after.
at all. Yeah.
And I didn't know he did a lot of those things myself. Um, that's a tough one to dial in on specifically. It's because, right now in my life, outside of my career, I'm an empty nest. I don't have anyone at home. Um, and there's a little bit of a void there. Um, and sometimes I get so wrapped up in things that are important to me, especially in my personal life. Some of those are just, things I want to do and things I have to do because I enjoy it, like going out and playing
Hmm.
golf frequently on the weekend. Anybody who follows me knows I like to play golf. I'm not
I
very
swear,
good at it, but I play a lot of
you
golf.
play a lot of golf, but best views ever with those mountains. I miss Utah so much. I do. Oh,
That's
I
why
love
I
it.
share those views, Barbara. I take pictures every time I'm golfing because a big part of the golf experience for me is being outside,
Mhm.
walking on a beautiful course, looking up and know I've got this great view. And I share that with people because it is beautiful, and I just like to share that with them. But
Yeah.
um, to your point about legacy, and so what I was getting at is I often find myself, because of the situation I'm in my this stage of my life, there are so many things, that are part of who I am, my home and my yard, and being able to golf and these things, but really they're not important to anyone else. They're just
Yeah.
important to me. So I actually think about this every week because they are important, and I'll continue to cultivate what I do now. But I have to ask myself every week, what is this doing to help the girls I raised? Or, am I failing by not, spending more of that time uh, making sure things that are important? And that's part of my weakness. And I really, as each day goes by, as I continue to go into this older stage of my life, I want to make more changes there, because the legacy part is knowing that I left people that were the most important to me with examples of how to lead their life.
Mm, I
That's it.
love that.
And it's kind of like getting back to the point about my mom earlier in the conversation. She may not have taken me over to the stove and showed me every day when she cooked around the clock how to cook,
Right.
or how to keep a house or do laundry. It's surprising because I have all these boys in our family, and all the boys, all six of us, we can cook really well. We can iron clothes. We can clean houses. Some of us are more, better at it than others, but we didn't sit there being taught. We watched, and we learned from watching, and we adapted it and didn't even know we learned all of this. I have seen the same things. I had challenges with the girls that I helped raise.
Right.
And I will tell you that as much as I had those challenges, I would do it all over again, because I love what they've become, especially as they've gotten older. And the most important thing is when I see them do things, or I see them apply things that are a direct result of things they learned from me.
So
And
there's
that
your legacy.
then
Yeah.
that's successful. So you can move on and leave this world, and they're still here, and they're carrying on some of the things they adapted and learned from you.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, Jerry, I just want to thank you, first of all, for coming on. And it's so interesting. What I love about this show is that it starts with something as simple of talking about the women that work for you, and then somehow we talked about your mom and what you learned. And that's what I love about I Am This Woman, is that you never know how the women in your life are going to impact you, affect you. And so we learned so much more about you, and I learned so much more about you. So thank you for being so open in this space to talk and to share.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thank you for asking me to join you today.
Yeah, for sure. So, guys, if you would like to be a guest on I Am This Woman, as you can see across the bottom of the screen is our ticker. Email show guest at I Am This Woman. We are now we're up to come almost like 2 shows a week because we have so many amazing guests. But we're doing more than that. We're building I Am This Woman as a brand, and we are really here to support. We are celebrating women every day. That's who we are, and that's what we're up to. I am working on a book, so if you are interested in sharing your story, please send an email to book at I Am This Woman. We'll love to have you. If you just look at this and you're like, I would like to just talk to Barbara and learn more about me, like Barbara at IamThisWoman.com. And then as our website is growing, we are looking for bloggers because we think you have a message to share. So please send an email to blog at IamThisWoman.com. So, Jerry, we always end the show and we always ask our guests to say their name and say, I am this woman. And what I'm really excited about is that I have men who say it, I have women, and it's so amazing because we'll have men who will say, my name is such and such, and I am this woman for this person or whatever like that. But as we know, you are this woman because of even the woman that raised you. So if you could say your name and say, I am this woman.
I have no problem, because I look up and respect women. I really do, particularly those who I've learned from. So I am Jerry Seidl, and I am this woman.
Yay! And I am Barbara Hort. I am the host and founder of I Am This Woman, and I am definitely this woman. And this week, guys, we don't have a Friday show. Stay tuned on Saturday as the women of I Am This Woman comes together for a special roundtable that we will have Taylor, Yamit, Sammy, and myself as we come together for our first retreat as we continue to build I Am This Woman. Stay tuned to see us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care now. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.